Thank you, Emma, and thank you very much for kind words of introduction. I am happy to be part of this August gathering. Distinguished speakers, panelists, and distinguished audience, many of you who are involved in implementation of the projects or running some very complex systems. This today's opportunity I'll be using in sharing a few of the things which we are doing at NCRTC while implementing a very complex urban transport project and in a very complex, fully developed urban ecosystem of national capital and national capital region around Delhi. So before I jump to that, I must compliment the organizers for discussing this very important subject of procurement, especially when we are involved into public procurement. I am coming from a government background, so from that perspective, I would like to bring your attention to few things which facilitate or which constrain the procurement process in organizations like NCRTC or many of the PSUs which you represent. Just to open the topic, I'd like to bring your attention to a few fundamentals. So all of us, we know that the Bible is, or the Gita is GFR. Then recently, the Ministry of Finance has come out with very good procurement manuals. Some projects which are funded by multilaterals, bilaterals, they have to undergo another layer of scrutiny or another layer of guidelines which are specific to those multilateral or bilateral agencies. Multilateral, generally there is a harmony among various multilaterals, but in bilateral there can be negotiations on one-to-one basis, being a bilateral arrangement. So I'll be skipping some of these things in the interest of the time, and I know that there will be a lot of deliberation on fundamentals of procurement and especially public procurement. In NCRTC, we focus on 5 things. We have a elaborate system of procurement with a lot of guidelines, but the focus is to achieve something for which the organization is there, the basic objective. And because we are dealing with the public money, we have to ensure that the quality, quantity, the right price, these are ensured. And when we talk about price, then certainly it depends on quality, what we are asking, or public very specific specifications, and quantity sometimes that influences the price. If quantity is more, the price may be a little lower, or in some of the cases, niche areas, it may be opposite also. Then timing of procurement. This is very important, especially in projects where there are large number of interfaces, because one contract can affect the progress of other contract if there is an interface or interdependence. Then source is very important, and there is a lot of emphasis by the government, by specific organizations also, that we choose the right source. And in the process, we ensure that these sources which are good are promoted, and sources which are bad, they are accounted for their responsibilities, for their failures, for their successes. This is very important, that as we go in this process, we filter the sources or the organizations or the contractors which are not up to the mark, or which have failed in performing their responsibilities. Now coming to the specifics of how we are, these broad principles, how we are implementing in a very complex project of regional rapid transit system. So, as envisaged, the bigger plan is of about 8 corridors all around the Delhi. These are rail-based high-speed transit corridors going about 100-150 kilometers in adjoining states. Four states are involved: Delhi, Rajasthan, Haryana, UP. So while it looks in terms of uh, geographical spread a small project, but in terms of complexity and in terms of the objective or the outcomes of the project, this project is a transformative project which is going to impact the life of about 6 crore people who are staying in this region. The main objective is to create a high speed transit system, rail based system, where we can reach the periphery of NCR in 1 hour. NCR periphery varies anything between 70 to 130 kilometers at various points. And if we can achieve a average speed of say 90 to 100 kilometers, then we can easily meet out the objective of the project. At the same time, I would like to bring your attention to this point that metro, normal metro, whether it is Delhi metro or any other intra-city metro, the average speed is around 30 to 32 kilometers per hour with all stoppages. Now, if we are planning a procurement of this kind of complex project, then first we have to understand what are the boundary conditions or the framework under which we are working. So there are large number of stakeholder challenges in implementation of a project like this. And one point which I would like to emphasize at this point is the procurement and project implementation, or I should say the timelines of implementation, are so closely interlaced. They have such serious interface that if we don't plan any one of these, then the project will get delayed. This is almost sure on the day one. So our challenge was, if you see the broadly multi-state implementation, if number of stakeholders is more, certainly the project becomes more complex. Then this project is being funded by multilaterals, ADB, AIB and NDB. All three multilaterals are funding the project. While fund is coming from multilaterals, but if you recall in last 4 or 5 years, there is a lot of emphasis on promoting Make in India, a new technology which has never been tried in the country, whether we are talking of rolling stock, signaling, telecommunication, traction, track, structures, everything being done for the first time, funded by multilateral, which go for the uniform opportunity to all the member countries with Make in India requirement. So this makes procurement very complex until unless we have very clear vision and strategy. Now, the next difficult thing is timeline. When normally this kind of project costing about 30,000 crore rupees is to be implemented, a 5 or 6 years implementation time is very difficult, especially in urban areas. But the challenge which was given to NCRTC by the highest office of the country was that we have to implement the first section in 4 years. So procurement and everything is to be lined up accordingly. Now, I'll not go into the details of the technology, but if you see that all technologies, whether civil, track, everything was new to the industry also, not only to NCRTC or the country. So we started functioning on this particular project, the working on this project somewhere in 2017. And we started identifying the utilities where the alignment will go. The project got sanctioned in March 2019. And the construction started in June 2019. We were just 5 or 6 months into the project implementation and COVID happened. COVID happened and everything came to a standstill. the movement of trucks, labor, material procurement, we faced many challenges in moving anything which we wanted to move. The most important part was, because it was initial stages of the project, the procurement and drawing design part of that, the planning part of that. So we resorted to some of the technologies. We thought that probably physically, if people are not able to move and meet, we have to be dependent on some technology, which I'll be covering a little later in the presentation. But if you see the timeline and a requirement of land acquisition, the utility shifting, then construction work, and simultaneously interfaces between various part of this complex project. But today I'm happy to report to all of you here that a project which was started in June 2019 and 2021, 22 was quite affected by the COVID. And we needed so many components to be moved across the country and in many cases from outside the country. But we got the approval of Commissioner of Railway Safety, which certifies that the system is fit for moving the passengers on the rail-based systems in June 2020, exactly within 4 years. And priority section was then inaugurated by Honorable Prime Minister. The upper picture shows the Prime Minister laying the foundation stone, and the lower picture is inauguration of the priority section just few months back. And very soon we are going to add another 25 kilometers of operational railway, maybe sometime in next 20-30 days. So 42 kilometers commissioned in around 4.5 years. Now coming to procurement strategy, how we worked on this, how we could accomplish some of the things which probably we were even not sure that we'll be able to do. First part was how to plan interfaces between various contracts and laying a very clear timeline of when to invite a tender, when to finalize a tender. When we worked on it, then we realized that some of the interfaces which are planned maybe after 1 year or so, if we provide a float between the procurement and the actual implementation, that can reduce the risk of project implementation or delay in the project timelines. We did a very extensive analysis and we preponed many of the procurements as early as 1 year before when it was required. And this one simple strategy helped us a lot. Rather than crunching everything in the last few months, we preponed, and we were quite comfortable in one or two cases where the procurement got delayed due to various requirements of government, and especially some of the vendors going to the DPIIT saying that we are not being given the equal treatment and whatnot under Make in India provisions. We know that when such complaints go to DPIIT, then there is a system where the reply of response of the organization is considered, and a decision is given by the Government of India whether we should go with that procurement or not. So there were 4 or 5 such cases. In almost every case, the argument given by NCRTC was accepted, and so there was some delays, but because we had floats available in our procurement strategy, we could bring the various contractors opposite each other and the interfaces could be resolved. Now, few things what we did. In some of the cases, we went for giving the responsibility of drawing and designing to NCRTC and some to the contractor. Now, this from where it is coming? It is coming from that basic concept where we allocate the risk to the party which can take that risk in the best possible manner. This has helped us because there are many things which are happening for the first time in India and the industry. So we took the design risk of the elevated viaducts, and most of the system contracts where there was a lot of flexibility to be given to the contractor, whether it was rolling stock, it was signaling telecommunication, we gave the risk to the contractor, so that because they were best placed to manage it. Similarly, the underground packages. Because we took the risk of design, we could float the tenders of viaducts much earlier than it was planned. The design drawing kept on parallelly happening, and implementation part, we kept on clearing sites from utilities. So this was one of the very important strategy which we decided on, which we worked, that will give very clear sites to the civil contractors. We did all the utility diversions, all approvals, and including design also, and we kept it with NCRTC. This saved us at least 6 to 8 months in project implementation. One, the very big challenge was procurement of track. I don't know if I'm exceeding my time limit. Sanjay, probably you can help me.
Please continue, sir.
Okay. So one important thing was regarding track for this kind of high-speed track, which is not done in India earlier, and even in Europe today, the high-speed tracks are design and build contracts. We never wanted to take this risk, because if in a design and build contract later on, it creates problem in maintenance if we have various contractors having various kind of track in one rail system. We thought of another strategy where we unbundled the track design and procurement, and we took the risk of design with us. We had international designers. Once we had full grip on the design, we went for procurement or the contract, which was won by L&T, Indian contractor. So very sophisticated track being installed by Indian contractors with design capability now available with NCRTC or within country, I should say. So while we are tackling the timelines, we were also working on creating capacity and capability within the government and in the industry. But in those cases, there was a lot of risk involved, and that risk was taken by NCRTC. One more strategy which we used was that rolling stock and signaling telecommunication, very high-end technology packages. Normally, organizations like ours, they give it to the multilateral or bilateral funding packages, so that people get a much better opportunity, and in many cases, because technologies which are not common in the country, those packages can be done by international contractors. We did just opposite of that, because we had decided that we would like to have very high local content in our project, and we did signaling package, which was a European signaling technology, and rolling stock package, both where we implemented Make in India concept. And again, I am happy to share with you that these very sophisticated trains, all the trains are being manufactured in the country today due to that decision. Similarly, signaling and telecom package, more than 50% of content, local content, is coming in a technology which even Europeans could not implement before us. So India is the first country which has implemented this ETCS level 2, hybrid level 3 signaling system on LT. Means if you go to the some international sites, you will see that how the European railway systems are looking towards India today due to implementation of these high technology package and Make in India provisions. And many of the packages where there was lot of local content already available, we gave those packages in the MDP fundings, multilateral fundings, because we knew that automatically Indian contractors will come there. So we can control the cost and we can increase the local content in the project. I'll be skipping some of these things, but which are very important, but I think I have to skip. One important thing which I mentioned earlier also, that we took upon ourselves that we'll give very clear sites to contractor. Design is ours, clear sites. So contractor will not have much issues or complaints to make for justifying their delays. And we could control contractors in a very, very effective way by doing that. Some of the initiative which we had taken was that we every time we went for some important package, we held a vendors meet. We talked to the industry, we tried to understand their requirements. And one thing I would like to mention is that every time we go for high technology or a complex package, we hold pre-bid meetings, we talk to the industry, and we very seriously we consider the recommendations of the industry, so that we understand what is possible, what is going to give the best evidence. If industry is aligned and our procurement strategy is aligned with the industry, I think we can resolve so many things which otherwise later on during project implementation create problem. So this shows the interface between various packages. There were about 50 packages which we are dealing with, major packages, and a lot of interface in terms of technical specifications and other things. 2-3 things which I would like to mention, which are path breaking, which NCRTC has done. The publicly held railway system, for the first time in the country, we have gone for private operation and maintenance. But what does it mean to a common person is that the train driver, the signal maintainer, the track maintainer, the traction lines maintainers are through a private contractor. Similarly, the rolling stock procurement we bundled with the maintenance of rolling stock for 15 years. In our depot, the Alstom, which is the OEM, which is the supplier, they are maintaining the rolling stock. They will maintain it for 15 years. And these two very, very important transformational procurement strategies, they have given us two very important outcomes. One is that we could reduce the life cycle cost, high standards of maintenance. Number two, as an organization, we know for next 15 years what are our expenditures on these two very, very important components of running a railway system. This, to some extent, I have covered. The indigenization of PSG, we can probably skip here in this. Many of the risks which we handled, so that later on in project implementation, sometimes some basic parameters create a lot of problem if those are not finalized well in time. This part I am just skipping. Now coming back to the part of the basic strategy. So not only that, on procurement on one side we were handling against a very thought out strategy, but we took advantage of technology in that. So we leveraged a lot of technology in terms of project management, in terms of design, in terms of implementation of building information modeling. The RRTS is the only major infrastructure project in the country which is doing building information modeling from bottoms up, and that is helping in so many ways, not only during construction but during the maintenance period also it will help. The data which is getting collected and populated in BIM is being shifted to a very comprehensive asset management system. Now, because the things are privatized and the data is available on asset management system, the controlling the complete ecosystem of such a complex project becomes much easier and easy to manage with a very lean and thin team. We have our own in-house developed software speed for project implementation, which we are sharing with other project implementing agencies, and we are managing some of the projects other than our own project. And there is one dashboard on procurement also, where we can monitor individual packages and the overall procurement strategy, how it is moving, how much time we are taking. Let us say if pre-bid to final RFP is taking more time, we can focus on those areas. We can monitor individual officers, how much time each one of them is taking on managing the packages, and that helps in overall maintaining the timelines of the project. So I would like to close it here. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Thanks.
Thank you so much for the detailed analysis and initiatives of NCRTC in public procurement, sir. Thank you so much for also introducing the topic. Ladies and gentlemen, before I request Mr. Sanjay Agarwal to come and make the presentation, may I say a few words about him? Shri Sanjay Agarwal is currently holding the post of Advisor Procurement Policy in the rank of Joint Secretary in Ministry of Finance, Government of India. He has been working in the area of procurement policy in Ministry of Finance for last 9 years, and he was author of General Financial Rules Procurement Chapters issued in March 2017. He has varied experiences spanning more than 30 years in procurement and supply chain management with special expertise in electronic procurement. With those words, may I request Shri Sanjay Agarwal to kindly make the presentation.
Good afternoon once again, and I will be limiting my presentation about the policy changes in the area of the public procurement in last 1 year. And when I say the last 1 year, if we go back to the budget announcements in 2023, it was a very unusual year from the perspective of the area of the public procurement because the two specific policies were covered in the budget, and which is very unusual. So I thought I will just give you an oversight what was those policies and what is the impact of those policies in last 1 year, because these schemes are still open, so they are not something closed, which is not the question of past. So they were, both the schemes were called Vivad Se Vishwas. So Vivad Se Vishwas 1 and Vivad Se Vishwas 2. And as gentleman has rightly perhaps just connected, we have taken or borrowed the name from the earlier scheme from the income tax which has come, because we found the name were quite apt even for the current scheme. With this as a background, let us first discuss about Vivad Se Vishwas 1. Vivad Se Vishwas 1 scheme was basically to provide relief to the MSMEs who got the contract during the COVID period. And because of the specific circumstances happening at that time, they might have lost money in terms of the earnest money, security deposit, or the liquidity damages, or they might have been got debarred during the period, or in some places the risk purchase might have happened and there may be the claims outstanding against those kinds of things. So idea was to give some relief, a partial relief to losses to the MSMEs. And we have given a dates based on our understanding of that period was February 2020 to March 2022. And we say that in case anyone has any contract which has floated during those period, or any delivery period which has happened those period, which will be covered under the scheme. The second part was that while we talk of MSMEs, we often confuse with the MSC procurement policy of the 2012, for which they will be discussed in the next session. However, this scheme is more comprehensive than the MSC policy, because if you see, the MSC policy excludes the medium enterprises. However, the Vivad Se Vishwas 1 includes the medium enterprises also. So it's applicable on all the three: medium, micro, and the small. Secondly, this scheme is also applicable for the works contract, because if we go back to the MSC policy, that is only limited to the goods and services and not for the works contract. Third part was that even if the vendor or the contractor has not taken a benefit of the MSC while quoting or while getting the award of the contract, still they were eligible under the scheme. And the last point was, even if they were not registered because they perhaps didn't felt it necessary to get registered with the MSME, and they get registered themselves today, even them they are eligible under the scheme. So the idea was to cover as many of the contractors or the vendors possible rather the other way around, to provide the genuine benefit. Uh, of course, the scheme is applicable to all government departments and all PSUs working under them. Whenever we launched this scheme, based on our past experience, we found that it is very difficult to control the scheme because sometimes scheme doesn't percolate to the right people, or sometimes the vendors' grievances that they are not being covered or is not taken care of. Hence, deliberately as a policy, we have decided the contractors and vendors will not be directed to approach the respective purchasing organizations. Rather, we have created a central portal and everyone will be asked to to put a claim there. The benefit was that those claims now being can be centrally monitored and controlled. So even today morning when I was coming to this, I checked on my mobile. I know as on date, total 55,000 claims has been put under the scheme. Now, which is possible because of this unique model, which is perhaps created for first time for any of these schemes. Secondly, we found that while creating a scheme, there are many likely questions comes. So whenever those questions comes, while we keep on replying to the individual ministries or the departments, but in case the questions are of the repetitive nature, we also create a bank of the FAQs or the frequently asked questions. And that bank is again put up on the website of the Department of Expenditure so that the uniform policy is followed by them. The scheme provides relief up to 95% in case performance security, bid security, or the liquidated damages has been deducted from the vendor or likely to be deducted from the vendor. Even those are covered. Or in case the firm has been debarred because of this nature, the debarment will be revoked. However, no interest will be paid. So because in case the claim has been, some earnest money has been deducted 3 years back, the contractor is not eligible for the claim per se. This scheme is still open. The contractors can put their claims up to 31st of March 2024. Till now, approximately 30,000 claims has been already settled, and the payment has been made. And since the scheme is still open, daily we keep on receiving the new complaints. I must say the life was almost a roller coaster because initially when the scheme was opened, many ministries and the many CPSCs was either not aware or they may be a resistance or both to make those payments. Then we engage with them. We on every fortnight or monthly basis, we used to take out the top 5 ministries where those such claims are pending. Then we used to have a meeting in the Ministry of Finance, either with the Secretary Expenditure or maybe many times we held a meeting at the level of the Cabinet Secretary, and we found then the claims were getting quicker. So this is one. Now let me take you through another scheme on Vivad Se Vishwas 2. So while Vivad Se Vishwas 1 was only related to the MSMEs, this scheme of Vivad Se Vishwas 2 for every contractor, irrespective whether the person is MSME or otherwise. Here also the procuring entity can be either government or autonomous body or the CPSCs or the banks. The idea of this scheme was to conclude the disputes which are already there. I think the people who have been in the government or working with the government are aware that whenever the dispute happens, we go to the arbitration, but even after the arbitration award come, there is a resistance from the government side. I'm talking only from the government side as of now, to accept the claim. And the resistance sometime could be for a simple reason, because in case they accept the claim, they may be asked the inconvenient questions by the oversight agencies like CAG or the CVC in the future. And whenever they take for legal claim, obviously every legal person says the case is fit for the future appeal, because for every legal practitioner is the best, safest way, and it also, I feel, has a conflict of the interest, because in case you ask any lawyer whether the case is fit, yes, he will always say the case is fit for the further appeal. Because of these reasons, we found the cases are never got settled. Even if you go to the court, we never feel comfortable only with the High Court. Even if the High Court give a decision, we would like to give to the divisional bench. Even if the divisional bench gives an order, we will go to the Supreme Court, then we'll go for the review petition and so on. The idea is the claims will not be settled. So what we decided in the government, rather than asking the individual officers to take the responsibility of accepting the claims, why we can't issue a central guidelines that each and every procurement managers will be forced to accept the claim with some haircut. So even the contractors will be losing some money, and that is the scheme. So you can say more of a conciliation process where the both sides has to agree. And the claims which we say arbitration award up to certain date and the court award up to certain date were eligible under the scheme. Few features, the scheme is voluntary for the contractors, so it will be initiated by the contractors and it's voluntary for them. So there's no force on the contractors to accept this scheme. Only applicable for the domestic arbitrations. All kind of the procurements, including PVP, are covered. All the earning contracts are also covered. Incidentally, these we have seen sometimes the PS1 CPSC is contracted to the another. NTPC gives the contracts to the BHL. So in this case, even the BHL can ask the NTPC to give the arbitration amount, which is also stand covered. And of course, the claims will be submitted up to 31st March. The haircut is more an idea that in case the arbitration award has already come, the government has decided that we will pay 65% immediately to the contractor with some interest. And in case the court award has come, we will pay up to 85% in case the with some interest. And when we see the court award, it is irrespective of the level. Even if the district court or the High Court or the Supreme Court, whichever has come, that award will be considered as a final. Even if the case is pending, suppose the arbitration award is pending in a High Court, and even if the procuring officer or the procuring organization feels that they have a high chances of winning in the High Court, they still need to pay that 65%. The idea, or if they feel in the appeal we have a high chances, still they need to pay this amount. The idea is there's no discretion on them. They have to make the payment and close the dispute. We have decided to pay some 9% interest here. And of course, in case some money is to be paid by the contractor, some from the government, the net money will be considered as a criteria for paying 65% or the 85%. The scheme says that in case the claim is up to 500 crores, it is compulsory for the government officers to make the payment immediately. Even for the claims beyond 500 crores, if they are making the payment is okay. In case they are not making the payment, they have to take the claim, they have to take the approval of the secretary. The idea is we are very keen that money should be paid rather than not paying very often. As on date, we have received, and the system remains the same. There is a central portal on the GEM on which every claim needs to come. So we are able to monitor the claim on daily basis or on the real-time basis. Till now, again the morning position today, we have received 1200 claims so far for closing of the cases here, about which 100 claims has been already accepted where the both parties has agreed, and around 4,000 crore has been already paid in last 1 month. We feel more, we see perhaps some more traction will happen because we still feel 100 cases in the 4,000 crore is a too less an amount. I think we are looking for a much bigger figure by the end of this scheme. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that very informative presentation from you. We now move to our next presentation, and before I request our next speaker to kindly share his presentation, may I say a few words about him. Ladies and gentlemen, our next esteemed speaker is the Principal Accountant General Rajasthan Comptroller and Auditor General of India, Shri K. Subramaniam. May I say a few words about him? Mr. Subramaniam is an Indian Audit and Account Service Officer with 30 years of experience in public sector oversight, audit, investigation, anti-corruption, and public financial management. Presently, he's serving as Principal Accountant General, Rajasthan, and with extensive international experience, he has provided audit services to 10 UN agencies, including UNICEF and FAO. He is a specialist in public procurement and he's authored a book on auditing defense procurement, instructs civil servants, and collaborates with global entities like World Bank. With those words, may I invite Mr. K. Subramaniam to kindly make his presentation.
Mr. Chair, a distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. Generally, oversight has the last word, but I thank IMA and the organizers for having given me the first session. Nevertheless, whatever I say will go as input for the last session, which is on reforms in public procurement. And I talk to, I am speaking, I am sharing my views or ideas as somebody who has seen public procurement from all sides. Before joining the civil service, my first job was in supply chain management in an MNC. I served for 6 years as PS to CBC, where I was handling public procurement policy. And I'll talk to you how many of the initiatives which Mr. Agarwal was talking, seeds of that were sown at that time during the tumultuous time of anti-corruption movement. I have seen defense procurement for 8 years, auditing from ration to missile systems. I've audited 10 UN agencies and served as convener of the UN Board of Auditors, and audited WHO as director audit in Geneva during the COVID, audited all the COVID emergency procurements, not only by WHO but by the UN committee. So with this experience, I'll share about Indian public procurement and also which public procurement across the world, many of them are similar. So at the outset, I want to tell you that the views I express, because many of them are off the beaten track, so they do not represent the view of the organization. Anyway, I have so many organizations to represent, so it does not represent the view of any organization, and it is my view. So my agenda is, I will talk to you about, since I am from the oversight, a few slides, a few words about the oversight system in the Indian public procurement regime. Secondly, I'll talk about the pain points, while much of the talk in the next 2 days will happen on how public procurement is promoting development of the country. I think somebody needs to talk about the pain points, where the shoe pinches, how our public procurement regime, or where the public procurement way it is conducted, is impeding economic development. Public procurement is not just about procurement in PSUs or others, but a lot of procurement is happening at the state, at the local level, at the district level, Gram Panchayat procurement of material, construction material for MNREGA, blackboards, teaching material for schools, medicines for hospitals. So we need to talk about that. So, and then I'll talk a little bit about the way forward. Why oversight is interested in public procurement? Because of the high materiality, 25% of the GDP spent on public procurement. Some of the departments like defense, 50% out of the 6 lakh crore budget is spent on procurement. 26% of the health budget is on procurement. And this serves the vital need, which you all know, whether it is infrastructure or development. Secondly, public procurement is the government activity which is highly vulnerable to corruption, fraud, mismanagement, waste. Therefore, it's a high concern for oversight. Secondly, as you all know, public procurement is driven by oversight concerns, or rather, decision making in public procurement is largely influenced by oversight. What the CAG will say, what the CBC will say, and that's how decisions are made. These are the players in the Indian public sector oversight. You have parliamentary oversight system, the legislature in the states. which has the Public Accounts Committee and COPU, where the audit reports or even the vigilance or CIC present their annual reports. This is at the apex. Then you have two main major players, that is the audit, the constitutional authority of the CAG, which is mandated by the constitution to audit and ensure value for money. Vigilance and anti-corruption, which is represented by the apex authority of CVC. Competition Commission, which deals with collusive practices because it's a big menace in public procurement, cartelization and collusive bidding. Transparency, promoted by the CIC, Right to Information Act. And at the end, public scrutiny, all complaints, all the nefarious complaints, etc., public, then media. Here a few words about CVC, which, how an anti-corruption, because as I said, it's the activity most prone to corruption, and therefore you have CVC intervening, though it's an anti-corruption authority. Traditionally, much of the public procurement reforms in India were introduced by CVC. As you know, first CVC, Mr. Vittal Institute, he brought in the whole concept of L1. Before that, there was no L1. So, and then for a long time, CVC used to issue guidelines for public procurement. Basically, it was guidelines to maintain integrity in public procurement, but which for years was mistook that CAG is one of the institution deciding public policy in India. But CVC, being an independent statutory body, independent oversight body, cannot be dealing with public procurement policy as such, which I'll explain later, the developments which has happened. Role of oversight, the objective of public procurement is value for money, and that is the same objective of the oversight also, to help the management achieve value for money. Value for money means buying the right product, right quality product, which meets your needs at the optimum price, not the lowest, optimum price at the optimum time. So how do you ensure that? This is how oversight comes in and tries to help, help systemic corrections, process reforms. Oversight acts as the second or third lines of defense for an organization. Second line, the first line is the executive himself. Second line is the oversight. If there is an internal audit, the internal audit or compliance, many companies have compliance function, they are the second line. Most important, promoting good governance through effectiveness, efficiency, transparency, accountability, fair play. Why I have underlined effectiveness and efficiency is the first goal is effectiveness, that is quality. Unfortunately, you will see all our process, this takes a back seat, transparency, accountability, fair play takes a front seat. That is one of the problems. The problems which oversight faces is oversight and executive have an adversarial relationship, not just in India, but world over. This is the truth. But how this interplay happens is how positive, how negative is the issue, is the question. So ideally, there should be a more collaborative relationship, and the adversarial relationship comes because the executive thinks oversight is just a finger pointing exercise and therefore becomes defensive. Oversight on its part is highly procedural, violation focused. From violation of procedure, you jump to the case of charge sheet of corruption. And this is a major problem. And this is how the relationship, the divide remains. So to have a collaborative relationship, oversight also should shift to a more outcome focused rather than procedural violation focused approach. Oversight by nature remains transaction focused because you point out mistakes in individual transactions, you punish people, vigilance punishes people on individual transactions. But unfortunately, these individual transgressions happen because of a gap in the internal control system or weakness in the system. So in a transactional approach, in a vigilance, the individuals get punished, but the gap in the system which allowed that irregularity to happen in the first place never gets covered. I have seen it case after case. Because of the same flaw, people are getting punished again and again, but that flaw is not getting fixed. So this is important. And in a defective, or rather in a public procurement framework, institutional and regulatory framework where there are gaps, weaknesses, problems, if oversight enters, it again plays through that, and therefore that accentuates the problem, which I will discuss later, how the negativities reinforce each other. Now coming to the problem. Is there a problem in Indian public procurement? Yes, there is evidence. Here it is. Quality. Is quality assured? Are the medicines supplied by the government the same as what you buy from the market? Public perception. Quality remains an issue, whether it is potholes, roads, bridges falling. I leave it to you. Efficiency, cost and time overrun. And this 70% of the major infrastructure projects above 150 crore hit by cost and time overrun. 45% of them 3-year and more time overrun. And this, let me tell you, this position has been same. I have been seeing it for almost 2009 or so. Hardly any change, a few percentage up or down. Corruption, inadequate infrastructure, inefficient government bureaucracy. These are three things which are common thread, that is public procurement. And this is from a World Economic Forum Executive Opinion Survey of 2017. So problems are there and we need to address. Before I start, I'll start with a little bit of history, because we have been talking about how reforms had come about. In 2009, a similar seminar had happened called Seminar on Value for Money in Public Procurement, where FM was there, the then Finance Minister, Cabinet Secretary was there, all the heads of oversight bodies were there. And in that, the CVC made 3 recommendations. I had drafted those recommendations. One was 3 problems and 3 recommendations. One was, as Mr. Sanjay mentioned, plethora of rules and regulations, scattered, fragmented rules and regulation, inconsistent with each other. So we said you should have a comprehensive public procurement policy guideline on the lines of what you have in US, the Federal Acquisition Regulations, which is the mother of all public procurement document, and everything draws from it. GFR at that time was not very comprehensive, and GFR only departments operate on that. PSUs, defense, and huge procuring agencies do not operate on GFRs. Though principles you may say are the same, but you need guidance. So one was that. Second is, we also said not just to have a comprehensive procurement guideline, but the procurement guideline should be more user-friendly, which should tell the underlying principles of procurement, why you are doing this. If you are collecting EMD, 90% of procurement guys don't know why they are collecting EMD. So any activity, so that it is known why this philosophy, why this principle, why you are, it's a principle-based, user manual. It's not a commandment, that set of instructions of do's and don'ts, which most of the manuals are. So this is what these are as far as the manualization is concerned. Secondly, we said there should be a nodal authority to deal with public procurement policy and to give suggestions to all departments whenever they face problems in public procurement, day-to-day problems, when they are stuck up with some problem. Because the moment they are stuck up with the problem, they ring up the CVC. I used to get daily at least 3 to 4 phone calls from joint secretaries across saying, this is the issue which is stuck up. Or the file moves to all the ministries. Finally, they realize this file has gone to legal everywhere. It's not gone to CVC. Let's send it to CVC. It goes to CVC. And then, so then we decided that CVC, being an independent authority, should not be involved in managerial decision making. And therefore, this role, you should create a nodal public procurement authority in the finance ministry, or maybe commerce. We had left it, and there was some confusion on whether it should be with commerce or finance. And finally, somewhere in 2012 or 13, the PPD department was put in place. So the first recommendation that you should have a manual. On that, finally, a committee called Dhal Committee was formed. They went into a slightly different direction and came up with the Public Procurement Bill. Now, Public Procurement Bill or Act has a problem because many people think Act is a solution. Now, this suggestion that you should have a Public Procurement Act, the Public Procurement Regulation should be backed by legislative power, or should have a legislative backing, needs to be re-examined with the realities on the ground, because Indian public procurement system is quite regulated. It's not that you don't have controls or you don't have a regulated public procurement system. Secondly, compliance. Compliance is not an issue. In fact, I would say it is more a case of genuine non-compliance and malified compliance. I'll explain it later. So that came about, and Public Procurement Bill 2011 came, but there were serious reservations and debates, so it did not come through in Government of India. But many states jumped the gun and passed the Public Procurement Act. And it has been 10 years in operation, and I leave it to you to decide how far it has benefited, how far it has not. The third recommendation that we made was capacity training. We don't have trained public procurement managers. 30% of time of CEOs as officers is spent on decision making involving procurement, but public procurement is not taught in any of the academy. We didn't learn it in LBSNA or nor our academies. In any of the civil service academy, it is not taught. Except for railways, you have a dedicated department, stores and supplies, which deals with that. They are professionally, and little bit of training in defense, but much of the public procurement in India is handled by, I may say, those who are not trained professionals, maybe except, of course, PSUs, you have people who are there. So, but capacity building and capacity knowledge gap remains. Whereas in international organization, any seat you need to man, you have to have a public procurement qualification. Now, Indian public procurement, now coming to the problem. So these are the three, and the direction. I am happy to note that a lot of development has happened, new things have come up, comprehensive guidelines have come up, but capacity building also, some things have happened. IMA, I think with the help of World Bank, has developed a curriculum for training. Now, Indian public procurement system is highly regulated. The biggest problem is that there is very little freedom for managerial decision making. There is a saying that bureaucracy is wedded to process and not to outcomes. That is, it's most evident and most true in public procurement. And that is why you have all the delays and decision making problems. It takes 15 years to decide on buying an aircraft, while Eurotunnel was built in 6 years. So this is one of the problems of a highly, and over and that, if you have an act, it will create problems. You will have straight away charge sheet is violation of act, which becomes even more serious than regulations. And finally, at the end of the day, even if you have an act, the nuts and bolts are in the regulations. You have to follow the regulations. Second problem is in the quest. Why it is highly controlled? It is highly controlled, which is designed to check corruption. And therefore, all the emphasis on enforcing transparency, objectivity, and the main, if you see all the act, they are called Transparency in Public Procurement Act, Transparency, Accountability in Public Procurement Act. Where is effectiveness? Where is the quality? which is the prime good governance objective, or efficiency. There is an act in a state which says you should finalize a contract within 40 days. So if the contract is not finalized within 40 days, if it takes 180 days, then they write, this has taken 180 days, let's cancel and restart again. So it's cancelled and retendered. By the way, retendering is one big disease in Indian public procurement system. Many contracts, at least I have seen in my state, 47% of the contracts are retendered 3 or 4 times. So this problem of married to process and not to outcomes is further reinforced by oversight, which is procedural violation focused. So you get punished for not following the rules, but you don't get punished for not achieving the outcomes or failure to achieve outcomes. I can go on quoting in number of cases. Rules are in black and white, but the world is in gray when you operate in the night. Rules will tell you if the lowest bidder, the price is 10% more than the estimate, you should not accept it. It does not say what will happen if 4 times you are retender, and after 4 times also the price is much higher than 10%. If you go on 6, what will happen? It does not say. It does not say, it says finalize the contract in 40 days. It does not say what if it is not finalized in 40 days. So you can't replace managerial decision making and freedom of managerial decision making with organization cannot be run on checklist. Control versus efficiency, I think I will leave it. I have 2 minutes. I will close with just one word, though I have many, but again, 2 points. One is complaint handling. Now, one of the menace of public procurement is complaint. We have still to decide a robust complaint handling system. Internationally, after the European Court of Justice passed this act in 2000, you have this concept of standstill period, where whenever an award is finalized, you have a standstill period. Whoever wants to contest can contest the bid, and then it is finalized. So the idea is the problem should be resolved within the procurement department or procurement managers before it goes out to oversight, etc. The second problem is of competitive bidding. I think I'll close with that. Competitive bidding is easier said than done, because one of the most important essential requirement for competitive bidding is to have good qualitative requirements or specifications. And the best practice says that when you buy commercially off the shelf, you should have performance-based specification or functional specifications, not technical specification. Rules also tell you that your pre-qualification criteria or specification should not be too narrow, or to restrict competition should not be too wide to allow for poor quality. But what is too narrow, what is too wide? This who will decide? This oversight will decide when they make a case. So there are, this is one big problem. And how do the user ensure that the technical specification or performance specifications arise out of its need? I'll just give one example and close with that. You're buying scooty, education department is buying scooty to be given to meritorious girl students. So education department can't frame specifications for a scooty. They call the RTO, Regional Transport Officer. You make specification. He made specification. BHP, so much 1000 RPM torque, and all that, weight to pickup ratio. And they found that in the pre-bid meeting, they issued notice inviting tender. Pre-bid meeting, they found that with this specification, the scooties which are coming are all 75 to 80,000 rupees. Whereas in the market, you have TVS Zip Plus or something, which is for 50,000. So they called the RTO and said, now you make specification for TVS Zip. And they revised this with NIT and again floated. So this is a genuine problem. It is easier to say that we should have, So therefore, we should look for more and more other alternatives. And that is the way forward, is to adopt the best practices of procurement, to move away from just competitive tendering and look for other things like Swiss challenge method, right for first refusal, etc. So I think with this, of course, I can go on with case studies. So with this, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that very detailed oversight on public procurement. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now request our next distinguished speaker to come and share his thoughts. Shri Ghanshyam Bansal, who is Dean, Delhi Metro Railway Academy and ex-CVO, Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. May I say a few words about Shri Ghanshyam Bansal? Shri Ghanshyam Bansal is 1990 batch officer of Indian Railway Service of Engineers, and he's presently the Dean in Delhi Metro Rail Academy of DMRC. He has worked on different parts of Indian Railways and has been a speaker in many distinguished occasions. He is the author of 4 books, receiving an award from Honorable President of India, Srimati Pratibha Devi Singh Pathar, for his Raj Bhasha book. Additionally, he was honored with the Railway Week Award in 2014. With those words, may I now request Sri Ghanshyam Bansal to kindly make his presentation. To keep up with the time, I request all the speakers to just keep up to 10 minutes of their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And good morning, the August gathering, audience, chairman sir, and the speakers. I will stick to my time of 10 minutes, of course, because that much is left. And I will talk about some experiences in the tendering and contract managements in Indian Railways as well as Delhi Metro, DMRC. Because I have spent about 32 years in Indian Railways and a few years in Delhi Metro. Both the organizations are very great, and I've learned so many things, so many practical aspects of contract management. In the initial years, I worked in Indian Railways. We were almost dealing contracts on every day. Rather, we were living the contracts. That was the main thing which we were dealing. I worked in very tough areas, and there the contract management is even tougher because there are so many surprises, so many uncertainties while you are managing the contract or even tender finalization. And as the Article 299 of the Constitution has empowered the officers to manage the contract as they want. And we were feeling very honored that, yes, we can finalize the contract, we can terminate the contract also. We can issue the 7 days notice, we can issue the 48 hours notice. Then contractor will come to you. He will start begging, sir, I will start working. Please leave us. That was the sadistic pleasure, I think. After coming to DMRC, I have realized this. Contractor is an equal agency. He is not subordinate to you. Because success of the contractor is the success of you, success of your organization. In DMRC, it is being done. Even NCRTC, also they are doing the same thing. My few ideals are, of course, Dr. E. Sridharan from DMRC, Dr. Mangu Singh, and Shri V.K. Singh, who is doing a great job in NCRTC. I have done 2 lectures in an organization, and I have taken the feedback from the officers, how they are dealing the contract. Dealing the contract is not easy. We have to really associate with this. We have to immerse into this. We have to be in touch with this. It is just like nurturing a tree. Every day you talk to the tree, it will give you the dividend. Don't dissociate with the contract. Otherwise, there will be problems. There will be so many problems. So I think with this background, we can start, and I will take only few minutes in this. About Delhi Metro Rail Organization, I think everybody knows it was a company jointly promoted by Government of India and Government of Delhi, having 50% share each. Am I audible? Okay. So it was incorporated in May 1995 under the name Delhi Metro Rail Corporation for construction and operation of the Delhi Metro network. These are the canons of financial proprietary. I will not go into the details because everything has been covered by the earlier speaker in the first session. But the last portion is very, very important. No one should sanction expenditure for his own advantage. That is derived from the principles of natural justice, that no one should be a judge in his own case. And definitely expenditure should not be more than the required, and we should exercise same vigilance in expenditure as a person of ordinary prudence would do for his own money. Friends, I've spent about 12 years in vigilance also, and my favorite subject is vigilance aspects in contract management. So normally we speak for 2 hours, 3 hours, but when Shri Gurubandhaniji told me that you will be given only 10 to 15 minutes, then I had to work hard. I had to spend 2 to 3 hours more on that. Otherwise, I was not preparing for this lecture. But definitely, we have to compress the things because everybody has to be given the chance. So I was talking about why the contracts are failing. I have learned very hard from the field when we have dealt the contracts. The biggest reason is the unfair risk allocation. Whenever we are forming the tender documents, we are loading the contractor with every unfair allocation of the risk. He has to do everything. He has to procure the land. He has to acquire the land. He has to take the clearance of the forest. No, that should not be done. In DMRC, we are not doing it now. Generally, we mention the rates are inclusive of all lead, lift, taxes, whatever are there. I think we should start differentiating between this. If we start loading the uncertainties, the pricing will be too high because the contractor will take into account the most, I think, negative type of thing that this will happen, and he has to account for this because contractor is for the profit. If we don't give the minimum profit, I think he will flee away. He cannot work if something is going in the negative direction unless he is working for the credentials. Sometimes big companies may be working for the credential. If I do this particular job, my name will be very high. So that may of course be there. So the risk don't have the provision of fair compensation. If something happens in between, is there any provision in the contract? Sometimes not. We should have the price variation clause in most of the contract. We should have the extension of time. Then liquidity is the major factor. Sometimes beyond the regions which are under the control of the contractor, there is a crunch of the liquidity. Cash, what to do? We don't have any provision in the tender document. Rather, we should make it. Some provision should be made. But sometimes it is not there. Then what to do? Then administration should come into picture. They can deviate the rules sometimes to save a contract. Because normally we are taught how to terminate a contract. We are normally not taught how to save a contract. Contract can be saved. Even if we want to deviate from the rules, only for once, not every time. Because the vigilance angle is blatant violation of the rules, not deviation from the rules. Sometimes with the recorded regions, we have to record the region. Why we are deviating in a particular situation? When the entire project has been completed about 25,000 crore rupees, last portion of our 2-3 crore rupees, he is not able to do. We cannot terminate. We should not terminate. Now the conditions are becoming very, very robust and transparent. As Shri Sanjay Agarwalji was telling, so many things have been incorporated now. But I think there are so many changes that it may not percolate up to the bottom. People may not be knowing. So that's why we have to take into account these type of things, that even we want to deviate from the rules sometimes with the recorded regions. Sometimes people feel ki if I record the region, vigilance will come, CVC will come, audit will come. Yes, they may come. These are the job hazards. But if you have written something, if you have written your mind, that is called the region speaking order, nothing will happen to you. I have dealt thousands of vigilance cases, and in most of the cases of this type, I have recorded without suppressing the facts that there is no malafide intention and no action should be taken against the officer. And friends, I think you will be happy. In 99% of the cases, they have agreed because everybody is practical. They want to get the work done without blatant violation of the rules, of course. Otherwise, there is a vigilance angle. Uncertainties are loaded in the tender conditions. They are loaded. The price bid will be so high because everything has been entrusted to him. Or sometimes we are saying that all the taxes are included. Suppose there is some reduction in the tax afterwards, what will you do? No, you don't have the reason to get the rates reduced. Recently it happened. In most of the works contract of railways, 18% GST was reduced to 12%. Then there was a CT inspection. They told that since there is a reduction in 6% rates, I think you should get the refund from the contractor. No, it is not there in the clause. If there is in the clause, of course you can get it. Please separate it out. Some of the things, uncertainty should be separated out. Any taxes after the opening of the bid will be taken care by the organization, either on the plus side or on the minus side. Poor planning, slow or no decision making, land acquisition and forest clearance not given in time. What are the practices so that the liquidity can increase? I will not spend more time on this. Retention money not deducted. Now most of the organizations are not deducting, but initially it was started by DMRC that only performance guarantee or some guarantee will be taken in the beginning, but later on entire money should go to him. So many advances are given. Some have the provision in the contract document, some even not in the provision of the contract document. There is a power with MD that special advance can be given in certain specific regions. With the recorded region, of course, with the secured advance by taking some amount of some guarantee, that is the performance guarantee or something like this. 80% on account bill payment within 2 to 3 days. Bills can be entered by the contractor. I think now it is almost usual type of thing, but think of 20 years ago, 23 years ago, when it was started by DMRC. The contractor bill will be entered by the contractor. 80% payment will be done within 2 to 3 days. If there is no money with the contractor, how he will work? But immediately he can start working. Liquidity should be given. Rest 20% after the all the checks which are there, which we are mandatory checks, that should be done. If something is wrong in this, in the next bill 80% will not be released. So that is the safeguard. Special advances, as I told, it can be given. Recovery starts only at a later stage, not immediately. So unfair risk allocation leads to higher price bid because he will load everything with the bidding. No bidding by the good bidder. Sometimes the good bidders, since they can estimate rightly, they will not bid. So you will be left with the slightly inferior type of the bidders. Tender awarded to a company who is not even capable of estimating the risk. इसमें कौन फंसेगा जिसको पता ही नहीं estimate कैसे करना? He will be the victim of this. The contract will be, I think, terminated. Disputes will arise. So DMRC follows the philosophy. Success of contractor is our success. This is the last slide. I think I will abide by the time. Solve the genuine problems of the contractor. Since the contract is progressing, there will be so many problems. Some of these are genuine. We have to identify and solve immediately on real-time basis. If we don't do it, then there will be problem. Timely decision is very, very important. Our motto is that decisions should be taken immediately. Decisions are never right or wrong. This is only the outcome which makes a particular decision right or wrong. Basically, the last line, which I have taken from, I think you may be knowing that, the new works, these procurement manuals have been the outcome of that. There was a workshop conducted by CVC in 2020 on 16th and 18th of December. And there was a rigorous brainstorming among the various more than 50 CMDs, secretaries, CEOs were there. And there only 10 minutes were given to each MD. When our MD Shri Mangu Singh was called for, asking that what is the secret of your success, where the no time overrun is there, no cost overrun is there. Among every other thing, he told only, we don't allow a contract to fail. I think it is a very innocuous type of sentence, but heavily loaded. Please think over it. We don't allow a contract to fail. We try to help him by every means if he is a genuine, if the problems are genuine. So friends, I only want to say that we should try to save the contract once it is done. Otherwise, it is not only the loss of the contractor, it is a much bigger loss to the organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful presentation on contract management in DMRC. Thank you for keeping up with the time. Ladies and gentlemen, we now request our next speaker to kindly make the presentation. And may I invite Mr. Ranjay Saran. Before I invite you, sir, may I say a few words about you. Mr. Ranjay Saran is a graduate in mechanical engineering and is a distinguished scientist of DAE. He belongs to 31st batch of BARC training school and is currently the director of NPCIL and chairman of Ashwini JVC of NPCIL and NTPC. He has over 35 years of experience in mega nuclear power plant construction and commissioning, combined with experience of handling global project management issues. Mr. Saran is a recipient of INS Medal Award given by Honorable Prime Minister of our country for his contribution in project management at TAPPN 3 and 4 and IPMA's National Project Leader Award for 2023. With those words, may I now invite Mr. Ranjay Saran to kindly make his presentation.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. In the screen, you can see one photograph that is of 2 into 700 megawatt nuclear power plant, which has been recently completed, and it is generating power. We faced many problems in this project. There was, of course, cost overrun and time overrun, and we were looking for solution that in future how to get rid of those problems and execute the project in time. And during that process, we found this procurement manual issued by Department of Ministry of Expenditure, quite useful. We went line by line, and this QCBS, topic on QCBS looked to be very interesting to us. And we found that this will be one of the method to resolve our issues. So I will be talking on this topic, how we are following this, and we are hopeful that we will get success. Because in past also we executed 2 into 5 40 megawatt project, which was done in time, but we faced a lot of problem in this project. And of course, I think this system will solve the problem. And since I am from nuclear field and you are not from that field, I would like to speak a few words on that. Energy, now we will be producing energy and power, of course power, from the nuclear field. And the today's requirement is that energy should come from green source. And it is coming from solar, wind, hydel. And of course, it is also coming from fossil fuel in a large quantity, you can say. It is acting like a base load station. But slowly, we have to see that when power from solar, wind, and hydel is increasing. It is going to more than 1 lakh, 2 lakh megawatt. Base load capacity has to be also increased. So along with the use of fossil fuel, we have to increase the use of nuclear fuel so that power from nuclear is also considered green, because we do not emit any carbon dioxide or any oxide in the atmosphere. So this content has to be increased. That's why there has to be acceleration in the nuclear power projects. And this QCBS system I will be explaining will be quite useful in successful implementation of the project. So actually I will cut short because time is less. Earlier, for inviting any tender for any bids, we were calling only part 1, part 2, technical evaluation and financial part of the bid. Now we have introduced third part, which is QCBS parameter score. So along with the technical parameter or technical bid, we are also asking now QCBS parameter score, and that should be self scoring. Means a party who is quoting, they should parameters should be such that it should be very transparent. They should be able to write their score on their own. So this method has been prescribed by manual itself. So I will be explaining one by one that quality-based selection process has to be done. And actually what happens that PQR, pre-qualification criteria, is also mentioned in the technical bid. But what happens that in case of PQR, we have to be a bit flexible. We cannot be very stringent that if you have worked in nuclear field only you can quote. So we have to be flexible, and any contractor or any bidder who has worked in thermal power plant or hydel or petrochemicals or any other similar plants where piping, civil jobs are involved, they can also quote. But PQR doesn't solve the problem of nuclear field, because in nuclear field, a learning curve is involved. So this QCBS is taking care of those aspects, that two party, if they are quoting, and if the learning curve of one party is better than the other, he will score higher and he will get advantage of price in the quote. So how it will be done, I will be explaining you. So this manual describes the steps. First, declaration of procurement as quality-oriented procurement has to be done. So in our case, this has to be declared by our board. In case of ministry, it has to be approved by the concerned ministry. But in our case, since it is a nuclear power corporation, it is having independent board. So board can approve first, that before going for any such procurement, you have to take approval of board that they should declare that it is quality-oriented procurement. Then only we can go to the next step. Then we have to form a special technical committee. And this committee should be independent of your organization. And constitution of the committee is also described in the manual. So if you follow this, there will not be any bias. In many lectures, I have found that transparent way of working, bias should not be there. All those things have been highlighted, and you must be listening also those things. So these things are taken care. If you are having a special technical committee having members who are not from your organization, then a specific quality technical parameters you have to frame, because PQR will not be sufficient to take care of proper selection of contractor. So you have to frame a parameter which will take care of your requirement for the work. Then formation of technical evaluation committee. Here also it has been specified by the manual that this committee should be also independent of your job. Of course, any member from STC, previous committee, should not be there in evaluation committee, but this evaluation committee also they can be from your organization, but it should not be from the same department. It has to be some other department of the same organization. Then evaluation of bid has to be done. For example, first, based on PQ criteria, you have to select the bidders who have qualified. Then we have to finalize the score. Of course, a score will be already self-marked by the different vendors, but the committee, the evaluation committee, has to check those scores are okay or not. Once the score is also finalized, then both technical bid and the score is submitted to one committee, who will decide now we can go for opening of the price bid. And I will tell you further how we are proceeding. So, uh, and then you can declare a certain procurement or work. Actually, in our case, it is EPC, Engineering, Procurement and Construction. So it is a works contract. So manual allows you to use this QCBS system in works contract. If it is pure procurement, you are not allowed at present. So if this procurement, you are able to prove that this is going to do some value addition in the job, then this enhancement of delivery is possible. Then paramount important to quality is there. So we have found in case of nuclear field, certainly there is a value addition by having the project, and we want the project to be done in advance, and quality has to be improved. So all those three things were getting qualified. So we declared, our board declared that this is a quality works. Then competent authority, as I explained, is already mentioned here. Central ministries, in our case it is board. Then second step is formation of a special committee. I already have explained. So it should be totally independent member. One member secretary can be from the same department. But all other members, for example, in our case, one member was from railway, another member was from shipping corporation, third member was from NTPC, and fourth member was from other public purchase department. And I was the member secretary in that. So that way this was constituted, and it worked well actually. And then step 3 is weightage. So maximum 30% weightage to technical parameter can be provided. In case of nuclear, we found that this qualifies for maximum 30%. In other cases, it may qualify for 20%, 10%, 15%. So, but the manual gives you provision to give maximum weightage up to 30% only. So we have limited ourselves to 30%, and our board has also agreed, because nuclear field requires best quality, best delivery of time with respect to what problem we have faced, and accordingly this has been designed. Then a specific quality technical parameter, the weightage has to be finalized, that we have finalized, and minimum qualification score has to be also declared. So this is the responsibility of a special technical committee to also declare what will be the minimum qualification score. In our case, we have kept 50%. Suppose a score is less than 50%, the party, even when he is qualified in technical bid, he will be disqualified. But if he is scoring more than 50%, he is qualified. But of course, from the weightage, whatever formula is there, his financial bid will be evaluated. Self-marking, already I have explained that they have to go for self-marking. So once evaluation committee challenges the self-marking, then they have to consult the concerned vendor that why his self-marking has been changed. So this process takes time. So in the manual this is not explained, but we have understood that if self-marking is challenged by the evaluation committee, they have to consult the concerned vendor, explain them why they are changing the marking, so that there should not be any dispute. Then suitable committee was constituted, all those things are explained. Now how the formula works, that technical score is, for example, bidder 1 marks divided by highest marks into 100. This is the technical score. Then financial score is lowest quoted bid price, and bidder 1 bid price into 100. So this is logical. And then you have to combine the score will be weightage, that is 30% weightage. W is the weightage for technical bid. In our case, it is 30%. And 1 minus 30 means 70% will be going to a financial score. This score, wherever it is highest, he will get the order. So in our case, how we have done, ours is the EPC, Engineering Procurement Construction Mega Package. Cost is more than 10,000 crore, and it is divided in so many modules: civil, reactor, nuclear, electrical, instrumentation, lab, all those things. So many modules were combined in this package, which was having construction work as well as procurement work, but construction work was more in quantity, or you can say percentage. Then it got qualified under quality-oriented procurement because it will enhance our delivery, and we gives paramount importance to quality in nuclear science. Then weightage given, I have already explained. I will not dwell over this. Then already I have explained who were the members. Then 30 and percent weightage was given to, and 50% by minimum qualifying criteria. I have already explained. Then these are the timeline. We got only 3 bids because it was such a large package and having these things. So from India, we could get only 3 bids. I have not shown the name because bids are not declared. Then NPCI internal committee was constituted, and then we have evaluated the now score after consulting all the vendors, because some vendors quoted a score of 95%. That was getting reduced to 85%. So 10 marks reduction. So we have to consult them. In that process takes time. So this way we have concluded, and we are hopeful that we'll get success, and we encourage you also to follow this. This is a very good system, very transparent. Nobody can challenge, but we have to follow this system in a very, very perfect manner, the way it is written in the manual. So we have been reading line by line of the manual and exactly trying to follow that, so that no controversy comes. And we are hopeful that we will get a success here. Of course, only this topic cannot solve the problem. In our tender, we have also introduced a dispute resolution clause, which will have a board right in the beginning constituted. So many improvements have been made, and with those things, things will go all right. Thank you very much.